Hey everybody, it's Christmas Eve. How's it going? Little bit of a warmer day today. It's only -12 with a pretty spicy wind chill, but the wind is coming straight north and I got a heck of a good tree line to the north. So we're going to do an outside video today. Merry Christmas to everyone, and I hope you're having an awesome holiday season. I have a 3-year-old, so I'm right in the thick of it. She woke up this morning and, "Daddy, it's Christmas Eve." I was like, "Yeah, baby, it is." It's hard not to spoil them, isn't it, friends? Anyways, I have different thoughts now that I have a kid versus, when I didn't have a kid. Anyways, you guys know the deal. So anyways, I got an email from Curtis Griffith. He is working on a 268 non-XP and a 254 XP. Or no, sorry, friends, a 262 XP. We're going to talk about the 254 also. And he's confused about which top ends fit on which saw because the 254 is also a 200 series. Or is it? Well, I'm going to do this video to clarify. I get this question all the time, emails, comments on videos that I made 4 or 5 years ago. Why I didn't include the 257, 262, and 254 in the 200 series video playlist. Well, the reason for that is they are not a 200 series to me. I may reclassify what I call these saws, but let's talk about the 200 series, Curtis, because this video is for you. Let's talk about the 200 series and, well, let's talk about the 200 series as I classify it. Okay, you can see on the back of the tailgate, I lined up just a random sampler of saws to show you all the different saws that are on the 200 series. There are several saws missing. I do not have a 268 non-XP. I do have one here, but it's not together enough that I can put it on the bench. So 268 non-XP, 272 XP I am missing. I am also missing a 66. I do not have one of those. I'll get one day. And various Jonsered saws, okay? But this will give you a good enough idea. I have more 200 series saws than this, but I don't have a big enough tailgate. Okay, I'm going to do a quick overview of each one, and then we'll talk about the 254, 257, 261, I believe is one that's in there. I've never seen one of those here, and 262, okay? 200 series, but are they? So let's start with the beginning of this model series, and I didn't put them in order, but I think I should do that, friends, okay? As far as I can read, and I may be wrong, there are a few out there that probably know more about this than me, but I know a fair amount about these saws. The original model on the 200 series chassis, as I call it, is the 162 SE. This is a fairly clean example, okay? Fairly clean example. And this is a 162 SE, 1982, 8th day, 22nd week, 1978, this saw says, okay? And it is a silver ticket. Now, this saw is leaking fuel all over the place, because that's what it does, okay? This is the original saw on this series. This has a metal handle, old school top cover, metal chain brake. This one's been painted, but it's there, okay? And this saw would be a runner. Now, what is this saw? This is 34 millimeter stroke, which all 200 series have, including the 254, 257, and 262, which makes it more confusing, okay? This is a 48 mil bore, 34 mil stroke, closed transfers. Okay, these are little hot rods. These are a good running saw. These things cut like it's going out of style. I have several of these. If you bought one of these, a 162 SE, you would not complain. These are really strong for the size of saw they are, okay? So 34 mil stroke, 48 bore, closed transfer, small carburetor, okay? These have a small carb on them generally. A Tillotson 163 or 162A is generally what you see on here. That brings us to the Jonsered variant. Okay, 630, 630 Super, 630 Super 2. Those are all basically the same saw. This is also a 34 mil stroke, 48 mil bore, okay, with closed transfers and a big carburetor, okay? These have the newer iteration of carburetors on them. Generally what you'd see on a 266, 268, or 272, okay? Now there are some differences. Jonsered's, when you pull the choke, it puts it on fast idle. When you pull the trigger, it turns it off. Okay, but for all intensive purposes, friends, the 162 SE and the 630s and 630 Supers are the same saw, okay? Now, let's go to the most common saw, and I'm going to try and do this quickly because it is cold out. The most common saw that's around here that you will find on this chassis are these, okay? Husqvarna 61 Rancher. This is an old version. This is a 1984 model, white top Rancher. Okay, metal chain brake handle. People go googling for these. They're hard to find. I have a small collection of them. Look at the condition this one's in. It's like brand new. Okay, metal chain brake handle, white top. Okay, this is the fastback top, I call it. Okay, that top end is different. That cover is different than this cover, okay? This cover will fit most of the carbs and intakes and fuel filters under it. This one generally will only fit the original style 61 Rancher. This is a newer, this is like an early to mid 90s gray top. And again, it has the plastic chain brake and it has the gray version of the 162 top cover, okay, or 266 depending on which saw you're looking at. Now this is 60 cc's, but so are these, so you got to ask yourself, what's the difference? These are 34 mil stroke, as all the saws are in this chassis, 48 mil bore. These are open port transfers, okay? These do not make the power of these. These will cut circles around these, but friends, these are great saws. If you're looking for a firewood saw, this is kind of like the 7.3 Power Stroke. It's overbuilt and doesn't make enough power to injure itself. Okay, you will find these with no compression left, or like this, where they're quite thumpy. This one's a little more ragged. Okay, these are good, reliable, good firewood saws. They grow on trees around here. People have them everywhere. Okay, so 61 Rancher was always called the 61 Rancher. Okay, 162 SE, 630. There's also a 625. That is the Jonsered equivalent of the 61 Rancher. Okay, so Jonsered 625, a red Jonsered like this, badge 625, is the same as a 61 Rancher, but it generally will have, Jonsered was like the Cadillac. It's too bad they went away. Okay, Jonsered will typically have the fast idle pulling here. Notice there's no trigger here. There's one here. Okay, so you pull the trigger and push that down. They all have it. Okay, the Jonsered does not have that. See, you pull this out. Okay, look. Okay, so there's your difference right there. Now we get to the newer saws. I'm trying to do this quick so that I can wrap this into what Curtis was talking about. Then you get to my favorite saw. I think this is the best saw ever made for me. I absolutely love these. And you guys know I just bought this one at the auction. Oh, and she thumps. I think I'm going to have to, next time I buck firewood, I think I'll just throw a bar and chain on this and let her eat. This thing's clean enough. I was looking at a factory full wrap. I don't have one anymore. I'd like to put a full wrap on this saw. Okay, this is a 266 XP. And I think we decided this is a 1991. 1991. 1995. So this is getting to be up there in age. Okay. 34 mil stroke, 50 millimeter bore. Okay. The 266 is always a 50 millimeter bore. Now, there is another saw that is exactly like this. I don't have one. I've never seen one. You'll find saws, old style, that are labeled Husqvarna 66. Those came out about 1980. Okay, these came out about 1978 from what the Mike Akers site and Google and AI and all that stuff's telling me. So the 162 is the original one. Then the Husqvarna 66 came out in about 1980, where these came out in the late 70s with the metal handle. You'll find a lot of these have heated grips. SG, you'll see 266 SGs. Okay. I don't think I've ever seen one labeled 266 XPG. I'm sure they're out there. Okay, so this thing will be your hot rod. Any of you guys that have had one of these know these things cut. These things will roll with a steel 044. I used to be a steel guy, and I had a 44, and my buddy had one of these, and yeah, I had to I had to concede. I was like, how could that cut the same? It's only 66 cc's. But yeah, these things cut. Okay, so 40 or 34 mil stroke, 50 mil bore, big carburetor, hot rod, okay? 66 cc's. Then you have somewhere about, what year is this one? This one is a 1989 268 XP. Okay. Now, from my research, Husqvarna started making these in about 1987 or late 86. I had a 1987. I wish I didn't get rid of it. I got rid of that and a 262, which ties in with this, to a buddy of mine. If he's watching, if those are for sale, let me know. I'd like to buy them back. I had a 1987 268 XP that was absolutely pristine. What is the difference? Really nothing, friends. 66 cc's, 66 cc's. I'm not sure why Husqvarna went to this. I think to get a little more power. 34 mil stroke, 50 mil bore. The difference between this and this, porting, okay? These seem to have, I did a comparison video years ago, if you could find it. These have bigger transfers and slightly more aggressive port timing, bigger carburetor, and other small little nuances. They also have this big muffler, which I don't like. I've never ported a 272 or a 268 and put this muffler on it and had it run good. So, food for thought if you're doing port work. Okay, exactly the same saw. Now, there's also a 268 non-XP, which is a cool saw. Never seen one locally. Never really seen one in my area. I don't think they sold them. I see these and lots of these and lots of Jonsereds. I never see the 268 non-XP. That is 34 mil stroke, 50 millimeter bore, open transfers. So it's more of a homeowner saw, farm and ranch saw, versus a pro saw. Now, what does that leave us not on the bench? The last iteration, I do have one. It's not together enough to even show it. And it's basically the same saw, a 272 XP. Okay, they look exactly like these. The only difference is it says 272 here, and the top cover says 272. The difference is they are 34 mil stroke, 52 millimeter bore. Okay, big carburetor. All the last of the iteration of these saws before the 371 XP came out in What year did the 371 come out? Like 96, I'm gonna guess. But that's the deal with that. Okay, and when the 371 came out, that basically got rid of this series. And they had to, friends. Steel was beating Husky up with the 046 Magnum, nasty saws. You know, and the 044 Magnum, again, nasty saw. You guys have seen on the channel. I've had an 044 for years. Stock, love it. It's a cutting machine. And 046s, especially the early ones when they're really light, nasty saws. So, and really, friends, the 34 mil stroke could not keep up with the 36 mil stroke, which is what everybody went to. You know, your 044, your 046, your 371, 372, all those saws are 36 mil stroke, 50 mil bore, or 52 mil bore. Okay, so that's just off the top of my head. There's also a 670 Jonsered, which I haven't mentioned. That is a 266 Husqvarna with an intake boot on it, not an intake block. Again, never had one of those. They're not common around here. Would love to get my hands on one. I'm always looking online. Maybe Jason Mercer can find me one. Okay, so the question is, Curtis Griffith emailed me and he said, well, he knows what he's doing with his 268 XP, but he wants to know, what top end can he bolt onto his 262? He has a 262 XP. He said he went on Wolf Creek Saw Shop. Thank you for doing that. And he said, they have a piston, and that's about it. Maybe a top end from New West, NWP. Okay, well, and he was asking, can he just put a 266 top end on? Can he put a 272? What can he do? Well, I'm going to tell you that right now. Okay, Curtis, this is the number one confusion or confused question I get. I made several videos years ago that are very popular. When I originally started, I made a lot of reference material for people to go in and answer their questions, so that I just figured it would be there forever. Well, as time goes, your knowledge base grows. It didn't even occur to me to put the other 200 series saws into those videos, and I had them at the time. I used to have a 257 and a pristine 262. I should never have gotten rid of that 262. Again, the guy that has it, if you're watching this, call me if you want to get rid of that thing. I had a perfect mint, not a scratch on it, 262. But anyways, so this leaves, the question is, what are you missing here, Curtis? Well, the 254, 257, and 262 are not on the same chassis. They are a smaller chassis saw. They weigh about a pound to a pound and a half lighter. 254 was published. I have the original Husqvarna literature, 11.9 pounds for powerhead only. 257 was the homeowner version. That was 12.2 pounds, and the 262 was right there with the 257. Okay, these saws here are about 13 and change, so you got a pound less power head. Now, the thing is, you can't bolt, as far as I know, you can't bolt these top ends on because the bolt pattern and everything's different. Can you do it? Yeah, if you have a lathe and nothing but time. You saw I'm still working on my big bore 266. But for the average person, it's just not attainable. Your knowledge of port timing and machine work and all that has to be pretty, pretty up there to make a project like that fit. Now, what does that leave you with? Well, I went looking around. Again, all three of those saws are 34 mil stroke. The 254 is the hot rod, little hot rod saw. It's 54 cc's. It's 45 mil bore. 257, and that's a closed port cylinder. The 257 is a 46 mil bore, 34 mil stroke, open port cylinder. 262 is 48 mil bore, 34 mil stroke, closed port. 262, in my experience, will cut right along with a 266, pretty close. 266 has a little more torque if you're running a long bar. If you're running a 20 or a 24, 262 is darn near close to a 266. 257's kind of right in the middle. Strong running saw. The one I had was very strong. I didn't even know it was an open port cylinder. Ran very, very well. The 254 is a little whiz bang. Factory literature says 13.8 on that saw. So RPM max. That's pretty high for a stock saw. So the question is, why isn't there more parts for those smaller saws? Well, because up until 10 years ago, Curtis, when I started doing this, there wasn't a lot of parts for anything. As the saw hobby has gotten bigger, as big as it is, it's still kind of a fringe hobby. Companies are making parts, like I just noticed on Wolf Creek. I was looking at their parts for oddball Husqvarnas. They have a full gasket set for a 242 XP. Well, I have one that I run sparingly because it's kind of air leaky. Well, now I could split that saw and re-gasket and seal it, which I think I'll do on a future video. So there's a lot of 254 XPs out there. I'm pretty sure Meteor makes a 254 top end. If you had to go that route, that wouldn't be a bad choice. 262 top ends, as far as I know, are not available anywhere. You can get a 262 piston, which is a piston I keep in stock, because if you're building a 365 Husqvarna 48 mil bore 300 series, you can put a 262 piston in it and use that. That's one of the go fast moves for those. But so anyways, Curtis, the long and the short is, you can't just bolt any of these top ends on there. It won't work. And even if it does work, you need to figure out carburetor linkages and all that stuff. If your cylinder's still good on your 262, put a new piston and rings in it. You can get bearings and gaskets and all that stuff. It's just the cylinder, you're kind of on your own. If you can't get a cylinder, you might have to make that a 254. I have limited experience with the NWP top ends. They seem quality when you look at them. I have a bunch on the shelf that Ryan sent me to look at and test. They look good. The plating's nice. They are way better than Farmer Tech or any of that kind of stuff, in my opinion. Although they are at a price that's way more than Farmer Tech. So Farmer Tech is what it is, friends. You get what you pay for. They don't charge much for their cylinders, so I don't expect much out of them. But NWP seems okay, quality-wise. So you could buy that top end and bolt it on and have a 254. But otherwise, you're kind of on your own. So the long and the short of it is, when I say 200 series, I'm talking about these. I'm not talking about the smaller 200 series, which I should probably call those the 200 series and this the 162. But it was the 100 chassis, and then they turned it to the 200 chassis. So it's also a 600 chassis if it's a Jonsered. I'm confused. Anyhow, friends, happy Christmas, Merry Christmas. And I was going to say Happy New Year, but we're not quite there yet, are we? Merry Christmas, friends, and thank you to everybody that hangs out here. Thank you to those of you that have reached out to me recently for, Christmassy gifts for yourself or family. I'm glad they all made it in time. I was under the gun, friends, but everything I mailed out has gotten to its destination, so that makes me feel good. Anyhow, friends, thanks for hanging out here and following whatever I do. And it's been like 6 or 7 years we've been doing this, and I still love doing it, and I'm going to keep going. Anyhow, thanks for watching. Take her easy, and Merry Christmas to everybody out there. Later.